Welcome, everyone. We're glad that you made it. I'm Ariana, and my business is Lloyd Collective. I focus on helping people start their private practice and specifically in a liberation focused way or a values focused way. And this is Susie. Susie, as you
Hi.
know, a lot of you know, is a really well known clinician in our community, PSC professor. That's where I met her, and a therapist and clinical supervisor and trainer. And Susie's going to teach about trauma, about 3 tools for trauma for about 20 minutes. And then we'll break to do a donation to Black Resilience Fund. And I'll tell you a little bit more about them then. And then we'll spend the second half talking about websites and how to put your clinical language into a website that serves your clients well. And then we'll do a Q&A at the end.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
I wanted to mention that we're recording the meeting. I said it to a lot of people, but just for those of you just arriving, just so you know that if you don't like to be recorded, you can turn off your picture, or I suppose you can leave if you're really upset about it. Hopefully it's not a bad thing for most people, but a lot of people have asked, or some people have asked to have access and they couldn't come tonight. And who knows, we might love it so much what we say that we want to be able to show it to people later.
Yeah. Can everyone hear us okay? Grace, I saw your message. Can everyone? Okay. Yeah, feel
Good.
free to message us if you can. Oh, Grace is saying no.
Grace, it must be you. So
I
check.
hear you really well, Susie, but
Okay.
Brianna.
You
Oh,
can't? Okay. I'll just speak up when it's my turn.
Grace, I didn't recognize you with all your little scarf and hat and everything else. Hello.
Hello.
Hello
Okay,
to
I'm
everyone
here.
who's so dear to my heart. It's so good to see your faces and your names and feel that kind of stretch of connection out across the vast domains of viruses and other things. So I promised, or I'm going to try to keep this to 20 minutes, and so I might talk fast. But these are, Ariana built it as my essential tools for working with trauma. And I said, couldn't you just said some of the tools I like or something? Because essential sounds so important. But here are some of my favorite things. I'm not going to sing it though. I kind of wanted to preface this by talking about levels of trauma treatment, because this is one of the ways that I organize my thinking about how to intervene with trauma and what approach to use. And the way that I think about levels is that the basic level is being trauma-informed care. And that is just that we understand that most of the clients who see us are really extremely affected by trauma. Anyone from a marginalized or multi-stressed background has usually had trauma. And actually the vast majority of us, even from lovely, privileged, protected environments, have had trauma. And one of the things that's important to validate is that trauma doesn't have to be life-threatening events. And I'll define that in a second more clearly. But trauma-informed care just means make it so it doesn't trigger people's sensitivity to danger and unsafety, or their sensitivity to feeling unlovable, unworthy, shamed, or to feeling powerless. So making the services as empowering and as safe as possible, regardless of what you're working on, whether you're a school teacher or helping people who are getting surgery or whatever it is. The second level is more understanding and managing trauma. And so you really are working specifically with people around trauma, but they might not be in a place where they're ready to try to process and resolve the trauma. They just are trying to manage life and not suffer quite so much. And so at that level, there's lots of people we never get to go beyond that level with, because their life circumstances are so dysregulated that they really can't handle going into trauma and trying to process it. They need to just learn how to manage and minimize the suffering that comes with the trauma and minimize the amount that it hijacks their life. And then the third level is more that processing and resolving it. We do that to various degrees. I think when I work with people, I rarely have that experience. I've completely resolved something. Every once in a while that happens, and it's very interesting and delightful. But usually it's a kind of a semi-resolution or softening, or a vast increase in their sense of perspective and separation from the kind of distorted ideas that come from the trauma. So just given that framework, the 3 things I wanted to talk about, 2 of them fit under the understanding and managing part. And the first one I was going to talk about is just helping people understand the neurobiology of trauma. And so basically, what I feel like many clients that we work with suffer from is that they don't have any understanding of what trauma is, how it works. And a lot of them don't even think they got traumatized because their trauma is what sometimes is called small t trauma. But they have this experience that that what happened didn't count, even though it was like maybe developmental trauma or repeated experiences of rejection or exclusion or shaming or, just unsafety in certain ways in their lives. So anything that is threatening to a person's sense of belonging in the world or being worthy of love or being safe can cause a trauma response in the body. And small traumas count. And so helping people understand what is a trauma response in the body. And I think my go-to strategy on that I think is probably the most simple and easy to do is to do the brain in the palm of the hand, which many of you are familiar with. Dan Siegel started talking about this, but if this is the front of your head, this is the back of your head. And so this represents your brain is in here. And if you kind of lift it up, boy, I've got a beautiful rubber band on my hand. So the wrist is like your spinal column, and this lower part is like your brain stem, and kind of your primitive brain or your reptilian brain that kind of controls fight, flight, response to danger, just your autonomic like breathing and heart rate and all of that stuff that you don't really have any like conscious control of. Then kind of deep in the recesses of our brain is the limbic system. That's kind of the emotional or the mammalian brain. And it has the thalamus and the hypothalamus and the amygdala. And these are kind of places that detect this is really okay, this isn't okay. If they sense danger, they immediately activate the brainstem. They're right up against the brainstem, and they get us to do things like fight and freeze and fight. And then around that is the cortex or the higher brain, the front part of it called the prefrontal cortex. And this is the part of our brain that has speech and has the capacity for perspective taking and can have empathy and planning and rational thought. And so this is like a wonderful resource that we all have, except for when we're in trauma, that part kind of goes away, and that our bodies have been programmed to quickly stick with the amygdala, the fight, flight, and the quick responses, the instinctual responses when we're in danger. So the little monkeys who got afraid of thought that there was a lion behind every bush and immediately ran away when they saw the lion wiggling because there once was a lion behind the bush, they're the ones who survive. And so all of us have been kind of trained that the feeling of danger and fear in the amygdala and the brainstem trump the higher brain and actually make the higher brain go offline, or we don't know if it makes it go offline, but the fact is these parts dominate, that they have such strong sensations and activity in them that brain scans of people while they're in the midst of trauma or having a PTSD episode are the neocortex is gray. There's nothing happening. Everything that's lit up is in this part of our brain. And so we really literally do flip our lid when we're experiencing trauma or remembering trauma or having a triggered experience. And what gets to win is these kind of fight, flight, freeze, very emotional kinds of states, and we don't behave in real rational ways. It's a hard place to solve problems. And this would be great if we needed to survive out on the savannah, but most of the time we're dealing with, having to give a presentation in class or present something in a meeting or meet a new person for a date. And the fact that these things are going off and sending our brain spinning is not really helpful. And so this idea that our brains can get hijacked, also that when we experience trauma, we kind of relive it. We don't just remember it, because this part of our brain doesn't really have a good sense of what's past, what's present. It just says danger. If it hears a low voice that sounded like the person who abused us, it has our body feeling like right now we're about to get hurt. And our bodies act that way. And it's very confusing for us to kind of figure out why we're acting so irrationally, but our bodies are all in on it. It's a very reliving kind of experience. Obviously, we don't want to process trauma with people where that's what happens, because we're causing them to be traumatized all over again. They're kind of reliving the trauma. So we need them to be more regulated before they can process it in a way that's going to feel fluid for them. So the second thing I wanted to share, the second kind of favorite approach, besides helping people understand what trauma is and how it works in the brain, is how to support clients with managing triggers in terms of helping them with regulation and grounding, helping people with emotional regulation and grounding. And oh no, I just got a notification that my book group that has 12 people in it who all like to respond are going to start talking, and I haven't figured out how to stop it from binging. So be prepared for a lot of binging, but ignore it. Emotional regulation and grounding, there's lots of different ways to do it, but I think we want to teach those skills both so that we can use them during a session if a client's getting dysregulated and it's causing them to flood and be overwhelmed. We also want to teach it to them so they can have it in their life when they're about to go into an experience that's going to be stressful for them, or they're starting to feel a panic attack coming on or something like that. And so a lot of people know about like deep breathing, belly breathing as kind of a go-to grounding technique. And it's a great one. It really does work. It tricks our body into thinking if our out breaths are longer and our breaths are slow and deep, that we're actually calm, and the body starts slowing down and calming. But it's not an easy one to access if you're actually panicking or enraged or in fight flight. And so the things that are a little bit more handy when you're actually starting to flood or really flooding, that I use during sessions and I teach people to use, are accessing exteroception, which is our perceptions of our external environment, our 5 senses. And so you can do a 5-sense meditation where what do you see? What do you hear? What do you smell? What do you taste? What do you feel? As a way of helping people get grounded. And sometimes if someone's starting to flood in my office, I might just say, let's pause for a second. And why don't you just look around and notice that you're in the room with me, and tell me 3 things that you see that are green, or what do you see outside the window that you like, or even what was the last thing you ate and can you remember how it tasted? And so these kinds of questions kind of help a person get located in the present moment, because what the trauma does is it has their body thinking that they're in that past experience. And we want them to feel like, I'm here in this moment. I think one of the most reliable grounding things is to ground them in their physical bodies and the solidness of their physical bodies. And so I'll do things like, let's just tap our shoulders or rub our hands together, or sometimes I lift myself off the chair and say, what is it? Can you feel the weight of yourself on the seat? Or can you feel your feet on the ground? And I'll tap my feet. Patting yourself can kind of help a lot. And with all of these things, the more that you do it with your clients, the more it normalizes it and doesn't make it seem quite so weird. But I often will explain to people why I do it and what it is about it that's helpful, and that it's not crazy at all. It's actually a really good way to help your body know that it's safe, because your body is following the signals that are coming from your amygdala, and it's thinking that there is a lion right now in the room with us. And we want you to kind of look around and be able to say, I'm having a really upsetting memory, but I'm safe right now. So other things, there's lots of tapping protocols that you can use that help people to ground. And some of them are like butterfly tapping that use bilateral tapping. Some of them are tapping of meridian points that are kind of come out of acupuncture that you can find online if you look for emotional freedom technique. Some of the techniques that come out of EMDR have that same effect too, of using bilateral stimulation to help a person kind of get their brain not totally lost in the trauma. And so the other thing that's a really useful grounding thing that I just wanted to mention is anchoring and creating anchors. And this kind of resourcing is done in EMDR and some of the other trauma treatment models, where you help people when they're calm establish some anchors that you can come back to as you're getting into trauma and they're starting to get dysregulated. And an anchor could be them remembering a really calm or peaceful place that they've had in their childhood or their current experience that they love, down by the river or the tree in their backyard or whatever. It could be helping them remember an experience where they felt very loved, and maybe by an unconditionally loving figure like their grandma or Jesus or their dog, or it could be kind of helping them remember a talent they have, like playing the piano or playing basketball or knitting, or a time when they feel very much like they're competent and they're in charge and they can control their bodies. And they have a sense of agency. And so you help them kind of develop that anchor and tell you all about it. What was it like? What did it feel like? What did it look like? What were you doing? And then later, when they're starting to feel like trauma, they try to return to the anchor. They summon up the anchor. And you can do that in your own life. You might have, like, by yourself, just a little index card that you can pull out of your purse that has your calm place, and you could read all the qualities of your calm place to help yourself get back to that. So creating anchors is another way of regulating and grounding. So those are just some of my favorite grounding things. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about was an actual trauma processing technique or approach. And really, this is the thing that I think is the core strategy that's common to almost all trauma processing. And what it's called is dual consciousness. And it's this idea that you're helping the client to establish part of themselves that's outside of the trauma, while you're also focusing on the memory of the trauma. So you're kind of bringing in both things at the same time, and it creates this, I can feel it, I know what happened, I can look at it, and I'm out of it. And that's what actually allows them to process the trauma. It's what allows them to be activating the limbic system a little bit, but also by being a witness to it, they're bringing their neocortex online, and they're starting to be able to use that neocortex to soothe the limbic system. So some ways that they do that, let's see, I'm going to admit this person. Some ways that they do that is like, or that I do that. One is just to notice that therapy itself is a dual consciousness inviting kind of experience, because as people are telling us about their struggles and we're empathizing, they're experiencing that the two of us together are understanding and validating this experience. And so it's this feeling that the two of us are naming what they felt, understanding what they saw, what they went through, what the meaning of it is. And so they're brought more into a witnessing perspective. And because we're able to witness with a lot of validation and understanding and not shaming, it brings them into that kind of compassionate witness perspective, which is ideally what you want, is that it invites kind of a soothing and understanding and accepting response to the trauma. And that's kind of creates the processing opportunity. So just good old Rogerian reflective listening and empathy and validation is a great invitation into dual consciousness. But other things, mindfulness exercises, there's a lot that come out of acceptance and commitment therapy and come out of a lot of the mindfulness models that are out there right now of, picturing, trying to diffuse from your thoughts so that you're not fused with them or your feelings. And you can do that by picturing them on a river floating by, or picturing them in clouds, or there's the one about the train, that you're on the train, you're watching all your feelings and thoughts go by. Or one of the ones I really like is an assembly line kind of imagery, where you're standing at an assembly line and these feelings and thoughts are coming down the belt. And as they come down, you put them in the right box. And something about that is very helpful to me. So I might say, okay, feeling left out, that goes in the left out box. And okay, thinking that my husband's abandoning me, that goes in the abandonment box. And this one goes in the self-conscious about my appearance box, and I can just kind of take each one, name it, put it in the box. And it's like, I'm just kind of watching and going, oh, that's that one, that's that one. And it kind of helps me disconnect from them and feel like I'm being hopefully accepting and compassionate about them. Another favorite way that I access dual consciousness is through narrative therapy and the approach of externalizing a problem. And so that as a problem gets externalized and you start talking about, instead of them being an anxious person, how does the anxiety get the best of you, or the depression or the dark feelings? You're kind of together talking about this thing that happens, that's the disturbance or the trauma, and beginning to dissect it and name what's the worst part about it, or when does it happen, and all of that. But you're in a kind of compassionate witness relationship with it. Similarly, parts therapy offers a lot in that domain of just that we all have these parts, and some of them are wounded, little exiled or childlike parts that show up, and we can kind of get to know that part and bring our adult self and our wise self to a conversation with the part of, what are you so scared of? What's going on? What happened? What are you seeing? What are you feeling? And the one that I use a lot is kind of just organically, as persons describing a trauma or a time they felt really triggered or disturbed, I ask them, how old were you when that happened? Or if it wasn't an event, but just this feeling like they don't like themselves or something, or they were ashamed or something, I might say, how old do you feel in your body, when that's happening? And usually people are surprisingly specific, like I feel about 6, or I feel 12, or usually they're able to locate it somewhere in a childhood time, and it might be very little or teenager time. And then you ask them to imagine what that little part of them would like to hear, or imagine talking to that little part. And actually, I kind of sometimes will talk to it myself, and then I'll invite them to talk to it. And if the wise part of you was taking care of that part, or if you were the tender mommy to that part, what might you say? And that we just practice talking to that part. Really, what we're practicing is bringing this wise neocortex up against the limbic and the brainstem. The last one I want to mention is Tara Brach, and she has this great book now, Radical Compassion, which is the third of her great books that I have, that she probably has way more than 3, but it started with Radical Acceptance, and then True Refuge, which was about bringing yourself at the true refuge for your struggles. But Radical Compassion is really centered around a meditation called the RAIN meditation. And it's really all about bringing compassion to ourselves and our trauma and our disturbances in a way that resolves them and softens them, and often causes them to completely dissipate. And the meditation that she uses is called RAIN, and it's an acronym, RAIN. And the R stands for recognize. Recognize that you're having a disturbance, like just, oh, I notice I'm feeling really anxious right now. And then A is acceptance, or allow. I would say accept, but she says allow. Just allow it, and don't try to get it to go away. So what we resist persists. And if we can allow it and welcome it, we can actually explore it and tend to it and soothe it. And so allowing it is kind of saying, hello there, or welcome, or there you are again, anxiety. And I'm not surprised. Here you are. I'm about to go into a meeting, and you came to visit me. Hello. And it's kind of I'm willing to feel this. I'm willing to notice this is happening. This is happening right now. I didn't get to vote on it. It's happening, but I'm not going to try to fight it or run away from it. And then the I stands for kind of inquire or investigate with tenderness, so that we're like, where do I feel this in my body? What is this anxiety like? What are the images that go with it? When did it start? Did something just happen that triggered it? What is this reminding me of? Is this a familiar feeling? Is there some kind of bad thing I went through that's kind of part of this? So just trying to explore that. And ultimately, if we can keep investing with a lot of tenderness, we can get to the question of, what does this part of me need? And then the last step is N, which is nurture, that we want to give it what it needs. And that's a lot what this kind of nice, loving, compassionate witness would say to the wounded part. It needs to feel like it belongs. It needs to feel respected. It needs to know it's going to be safe. It needs to know it's okay to make mistakes, and that we can kind of give ourselves those things through this meditation. So those are a whole myriad of ways to get at dual consciousness, but hopefully those 3 things, helping people understand their trauma, helping people regulate and ground, and helping people access dual consciousness, are handy are helpful to you. And good luck. So much. And if you have questions, write them down so you don't forget them, because we're going to save questions till the end. 22 minutes again. Miracle. All right.
That was amazing. Thanks, Susie. That was amazing. So we are going to pause for donations, and then, like Susie said, we'll do questions at the end. So definitely write them down. I can't believe you got so much information in such a short period of time. I'm so impressed. So I am going to put the link for, can everyone hear me better? Yeah. Okay. I changed my microphone. So this is Black Resilience Fund, and it's an organization that started during COVID, and it was started by Cameron Witten, who's a leader in the community in Portland, specifically in the Black community. And
Ariana, did you put the link in there?
yeah. Oh, I just sent it to Rebecca privately. Rebecca knows privately. Thank you.
There we go. Okay.
he started it during COVID for Black families that were specifically impacted, economically impacted, and they do a really good job gathering a lot of cash, and then that's going straight to Black families' rent, utilities, groceries, all their basic needs. So whatever donation you make, if you can privately message me the amount, then my business Lloyd Collective will match it. Part of Lloyd Collective's mission is to donate at least 5% of profit to Black, Indigenous, people of color communities in order to undo some of the impact, or at least support some of the growth in those communities, and support undoing some of the impact of white supremacy. So
I
feel
so
free-
appreciate that you do that, Ariana. It's such a huge way that you put your money where your mouth is about it, and values-based anti-racist practice.
Thanks, Susie. Stacy put, they also deliver food to people's doors twice a week. Yeah, they've been really powerful in the work that they do. So feel free to private message me, and then I'll add it up at the end, and then we'll be able to say how much we all together have donated. And I'll be doing fundraiser workshops like this every month. So you'll get posts about future opportunities too. And you can also, of course, choose an organization that you like. Last month we did Join, which does housing in Portland, and they have a pretty radical approach as well. All right. So I'm going to jump in and get started. I should have had the message you, Susie.
Oh, with the amount, so I could
Yeah.
add it all up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not too late. You guys want to message me?
Only 3 people have messaged me. So for the rest of you, will you message Susie? I think that'll make more sense.
Yeah, if you could add up all that numbers while you're talking, I would be very impressed, although I wouldn't put it past you because you're very good at that. My problem is right now I'm stuck in the Black Lives Matter thing. I made my donation, but I can't get back to you.
Oh, you can't find us? Are we at the
Oh,
bottom?
I know. I found you. I
You found
clicked
us.
on that little camera. Okay,
So
I got you back.
Race, Daphne, and Raymond, I know it's not Raymond. I know you'd mentioned it's someone else's, but I got your 3. So then everyone else can just message Susie. So then I'm going to start. And like I mentioned, I do a private practice in clinical supervision. That's where I connect the most with Susie. And then within that, a lot of people started coming to me to start setting up their private practice, because people get licensed and then they want the next thing. So then I started Lloyd Collective, and the focus of it is starting a private practice that's really based on your values and really aware of systems that are in place, especially in the business world, that perpetuate problems. And I have a belief that therapists starting businesses can undo some of those systems by the way they start and run their business. So I have an 8-week program, and in that program, and some of my participants are here, in that program you set up your entire private practice. And one of those things is you create your own website. So I wanted to talk briefly about websites and taking your skills, just like what Susie described, and being able to put it in a really great website. So how many people have websites already? You can raise your hand in the participant thing or in the just in real life. In that thing in real life. Callie, Liz, I saw you raise your hand. Great. Grace has one. So either not that many or yeah. So with your website, I really encourage people to think of their website as an extension of the therapy room, and to not farm it out, not have somebody else do it, because you can tell pretty quickly when someone else has written someone's website, when it's not really them. And your opportunity to connect with someone begins as soon as they find your website. And usually they'll find it 2 ways. One is through an organic search on Google. They might just be like, anxiety therapist near me. The more likely way is that they're going to go to their friends and say, who are you going to for therapy, or who should I go to? And their friend's going to give them your website. Either way, they're going to end up on your website, and you have about 5 seconds to connect with them and let them know what you're really about. And then they'll either stay or go. but there's 5 seconds for you to make a really clear impression. And that's not to communicate that there's some scarcity there. It's because scarcity doesn't really work in business, and it's not our business. That's not what we do here, because I think we all really believe in each of us connecting with the best clients and doing the best services. But it is to say people don't have very long attention spans. And we really want them to, as soon as they jump on our website, to know exactly what we're about. So a few questions to kind of get you reflecting about what would go into a website. The first question is, how do you want to feel when you're with your clients? And you can put a comment in the chat box. When you're sitting with a client, what is it that you most want to be feeling with them? It could be you really want to feel your compassion for them. Maybe you really want to feel clarity. Could be that you want to feel connected. Well, what comes up for you? Understanding, authentic relationship. The next question is, what do you want your clients to feel with you? When they're sitting with you, if they had to describe it in just one word, what would you want it to be? I saw Jen wrote authentic connection and compassion, unconditional respect for how she wants to feel with her clients. So what do you want them to feel with you? Seen, safe, heard, and compassion, seen. That's great. And there's a few more reflection questions, but we'll go back to them if we have time. But I want you to remember that, because we want them to feel that trust, heard, and believed. We want them to feel that when they're coming to our website too. We don't want them to come to our website and feel that we're trying to like pitch something to them. We don't want to have them come to our website and get this strange idea of what mental health looks like because there's only pictures of like sunshine and only certain people on there. We really want it to communicate exactly what we want them to feel in the room with us. So when it comes to building your website, there's 2 main things to focus on. One is people being able to find you. If people can't find you, it doesn't matter how great your website is. The second is connecting with them. Even if people can find you, if they can't connect to you, then it still doesn't matter. So you really want to have the balance of both. I did a search today and there were some websites that came up really quickly that people had definitely paid to have somebody create it and then put in really great search engine optimization. But I could tell immediately it wasn't the person's voice that was on there. And I couldn't connect with it at all. So as far as being found, this is something that people dedicate their whole career to. But the basics are that you want to use language that's pretty specific to what you do. For example, if you searched anxiety therapist, you would come up with so many search results. And even if you searched anxiety therapist in Portland, you would still come up with likely hundreds of results. But if you search like anxiety therapy for queer, non-binary, kink-friendly vegans in Portland, you're going to come up with the 3 to 5 people that have put up that on their website. So you want to be really specific and intentional with the words you're choosing and then use them throughout your website. That's one way to rank higher in organic searches on Google. The other thing is to be creating consistent content on your website. So Susie shared a lot of great concepts like about the brain or about our, I'm trying to find all my words. Just about all the behind the scenes stuff, all the specifics about what happens with trauma. Those would all be really, really great blog posts because people will read them, they go into depth, they're more complex. So it's going to take somebody being really committed to find them. But those also make you rank higher as far as Google goes because it says, hey, this website is alive, people are visiting it, there's quality content here. And that's mostly what I want to say about findability for your website. The part that I really want to focus on is connection with your website. So when it comes to creating, especially the home page, which is mostly what people will see. In fact, you could create a great website that's just one page, just one home page. You want that page to be a resource for your client and to be starting a new conversation, or at least that's what I encourage. That's what I offer as something to do with it. And like I mentioned, it's 5 seconds that you'll either be able to communicate what you're about or not. So you really want the first glimpses of what they see to be colors, pictures, fonts, and then language that really communicate what conversation you're wanting to have, what new idea you're wanting to impart, or new service. So if that language is too general, it's not really going to capture the person unless you're coming really, really highly recommended by a fellow therapist, and then people won't care as much. But you really want those first phrases to capture the person. And at the end of this, I'll send out a template, and it kind of breaks down your homepage in different sections. But the very top of it is going to basically be 1 to 2 sentences that are super succinct and really clear. So like from Susie's presentation, I loved her understand your trauma, or learn to give yourself what you need. There were a few phrases like that. Learn to bring compassion to yourself and soften your disturbances. So something that's very specific about what you do. And it could be, I'm a therapist who focuses on trauma and helps people learn how to go into stressful experiences more easily. So something super specific, but that's clear about what you're teaching. Let's see. So in general, with the website, with the tone and the colors and the language, you're going for consistency, you're going for empathy. You want to make sure that your website is not all about you, and you want to share enough of yourself so they get a feel for you, who you are. But there's a lot of websites where you go there and the person's saying, I am this person, I do this modality, I have this training, and you're not really getting that connection with them. You're not really feeling seen or heard, or getting a feel for their empathy or compassion, even though they probably have tons. But they're kind of using it like a job interview. So you really want it to be that the website serves the client and it's there as a resource for them. And one really good litmus test for that is, even if the client never works with you, never talks to you again, they got something valuable. It changed their framework in some way and made them feel a little less alone or a little less intense. It gave them something to chew on. And then the last point that I really want to drive home is the language that you use and the importance of not using jargon at all. So as Susie was going along, I was making 2 columns of like, this would be therapy speak and this would be client speak, and Susie weaves them in really well. So you get a really good feel. So, regulation, grounding, flooding, anchors, dual consciousness, diffusion, don't put those on your website. Your client, unless you're targeting other therapists, and like I work with other therapists, this is what I do. But saying things like repeated experiences of threat, of rejection, feelings of having your sense of safety threatened, feeling like you don't belong. I loved when Susie said small traumas really count. Things like that. You want your client to be able to read it and understand it and not have to filter it through the jargon, which can sometimes create barriers between them on a website. Obviously, in the therapy room, it's different. But you're writing your website as if it's for like your cousin or your best friend, and they just really need to be seen and heard. And so a good practice is to write your website, send it to a friend, have them read the whole thing and tell you where the jargon is, and then rewrite it or edit those parts out and then do it again. So do it at least twice so that you're really speaking their language that's conversational and friendly and accessible. And I know a lot of therapists worry that that means they won't come across as professional or competent, but in general, it makes you much more accessible. And you can save one paragraph within your website, maybe on the About page, where you say, and these are my credentials and all the beautiful letters I have after my name and why you should trust me. But really, they're going to learn to trust you and your competency by how good your empathy is and your willingness to meet them exactly where they're at. And just remembering that the website really is there for them and it's there to serve them versus highlight us, which it does, but that's the side piece. So
your website's such a perfect example of this, Ariana. It's so bright and delightful, and it makes you leave feeling like, I deserve to be supported. I need someone who's going to be my champion. This person sounds so supportive. Yeah.
Thanks, Susie. Thank you. I think that's mostly what I wanted to share about putting yourself on your website. There's a lot more to say about it, but I don't want to share too much information. So I will, I guess if we have a few minutes, I guess we could look at the one page, Susie, that I emailed you.
Okay.
That is the template that I'll share with everyone, and you can use it to create your homepage.
So is it like no subject?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
I think, yeah, it's
I got it. I found
Okay.
it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I need to get back to my screen and then say share my screen. So is this showing up for people? Ariana,
Yeah,
is this
I think it's cutting off the right side of it. So maybe zoom out a little bit.
Huh.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
That's great. So with your website, you're going to create different blocks, and you could do these in different colors and different sections to break it up and to make it super easy to read. The top is just your header, which shows up on every single page on your website. And your 2 to 3 word description could be the very, very basics, like we talked about, something catchy of exactly what you do. Like mine just says supportive clinical supervision. So something that they'll see on every single page what you do and identifies you quickly. And then the 2-sentence summary. This is suggested language and you can change it, but therapy for blank, whatever description you have for your people who experience whatever thing they experience and want whatever outcome.
Therapy for people who experience and want. Sounds like it just does it by itself. You don't need to add anything.
That's true. Therapy for people who are alive. Yeah. So therapy for people who had repeated experiences of rejection and really want to
feel stronger or something.
Feel stronger or soothe that feeling when it comes up or whatever specific thing. And then the cognitive empathy is really describing how you understand what life is like for them. And you could throw in emotion there and say, I get the feelings here. But you're really saying, I understand what that's like. I understand. And I put autism as like an example, but I understand this means these things are hard and these things are easy, or this means you've tried these things, but these other things you haven't tried or they haven't worked. And within these first two, the 2-sentence summary and the cognitive empathy is also where you can add the piece about the conversation you're wanting to have with your clients. It could be in the very first 2-sentence summary, or it could be in how you help. I help by helping you understand your trauma, or helping you feel safe for at least 1 hour a week while we work on helping you feel safe for 2 hours a week. Services. So you'll see all of these are spaced out. There's so many websites where there's just paragraph, block of a paragraph, block of a paragraph. Nobody's reading those paragraphs. Your mom might not even be reading those paragraphs. So just do 1 to 2 sentences and then skip, make space and go to the next. So same with your services, one sentence, and then you're linking to your actual service page where you go into depth. This whole page is pretty simple, and you can link to a million other pages within your website where it can be more complicated, more explanation. And then your empathy and your intention of what you do, what you'll do together. And you're not over promising here. You're not kind of waving a magic wand or telling them that by working with you, they'll get their dream life. You're really stating your earnest intention in understanding them and meeting them where they're at and respecting them and working with them. And with all these, you'll see connect button. So those are where you're connecting, like how they can email you. You're putting a button there, or where they can schedule a free consultation. So it's super easy when they're on your page to schedule and to talk to you. So you're very accessible. So I'll email these out tomorrow with the video of today's presentation. And that's it. So we're going to open up to questions and answers. And then Susie, if you have the sum.
Yes,
total.
I did. Actually, it came out to exactly 500. Would you believe that?
I have some to add to
I'm
that.
sorry. Someone else. Wait, I have some more. 500, 625.
And then Susie, I have 190 to add to that, which doesn't include yours, Susie. Have you included yours?
I just added mine. Yeah. Did somebody? Oh wait, did I send mine to you?
Yeah, you sent it to
I
me.
added mine in. Yeah.
Okay.
Who were the 190 from? Because they might have sent it to me too.
The total is Grace, or it's Grace, Daphne, and Raymond.
Oh, okay. I don't think they did. Oh no, Raymond sent it to me too.
Okay.
Okay, so I think. Wait, maybe not. Anyway, so 190 more. So that would be 625, 725, 815, $815.
And then times
Woohoo!
2, right?
And what?
And then multiplying that times 2.
Yeah, multiplying that times your match is like $1,730 or so. Yeah.
It's 1620.
1620.
If I did my math
Or
right.
30. Yeah. Yay.
That's crazy.
That's a big fundraiser. Good job,
Yeah.
Ariana, and everybody.
It's kind of
thanks
fun
everyone
to
for
realize.
donating.
It's kind of fun to realize that we can make, Ariana spend a lot of money.
Yeah.
It's like a challenge.
Yeah. Let's see if we can break her bank. Yeah.
Seriously, this is way, way more than they donated last month.
I know. I think you sent out, we raised $200. You're like, uh-oh, no, I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
Okay, now
this is
everyone has to sign up for Ariana's
killing me.
program.
Yeah. Thanks, Liz. That's right.
Yeah, check out Ariana's website and all the things that she has to offer. And also you should check out my member
That's
vault
right.
website. I
Yes.
should maybe include
Yeah,
the
do you want to
link.
put it in the chat box?
Yeah, if I could figure out what it is. Just a second, I'll try to
Yeah.
find it. Yeah.
And do you want to tell people about it, Susie, or shall I?
I'll say a little bit. Let's see. For some reason, it just went to you. Can you send it to everybody? It just went to
Yeah.
you. So it's actually Ariana really helped me with this. I had to give 3 workshops right when COVID started, and we had to do them all by video, which I wasn't at all prepared to do. But thanks to Ariana, we did it and we recorded them. And so now they're up in a recorded form, and you can watch them and get 6 CEUs. One's in trauma, one's in supervision, strength-based supervision, integrated approaches to trauma, and then the other one is ethics. And Lisa Race helped me do that one, and it's kind of the ethics of therapeutic presence and kind of really connection and being your authentic self with clients. So it's kind of an anti-codes and whatever ethics workshop.
Yeah, it's a really fun one.
Yeah.
And I'll put my website here for folks to check out too, if you're thinking about starting a private practice.
Yeah.
And yeah, any questions?
I don't have a question, but I am super impressed with your ability to distill information, both of you, into a really short format. That is really impressive.
Thanks, Jen.
Info overload. Yeah.
Really
Brenna
clear.
asked, oh, good. So Brenna asked when the recording will go out. It will go out in tomorrow's email. Did everyone, I think everybody who's here had to have gotten the link from me. if for some reason you didn't, let me know. But it'll go out in tomorrow's email to everybody.
And the link, someone asked where the link is for the Black Resilience Fund. It was at the top of the chat, or Ariana posted it,
Yeah.
and that's how you donate. You just click on that link. if
I
anybody's still needs to.
yeah, I'll post it again, and then they can tell one of us, whoever that was, they can tell one of us. Oh,
I got one amount
yeah.
already that they said they would
Okay.
once they figured
Great.
it out. So that's good.
Great.
Cool.
Any other questions about trauma or website? Would you mind if the recording was shared? No, I don't mind. In fact, I'm going to post it on my website. So then everybody can see it there too. Yeah. Thanks for asking, Leslie.
Maybe I'll put it in my website too if I can figure out
That's
how
a
to do
great
that.
idea. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good idea. Did anyone learn something new about trauma that you didn't know?
I feel like I'm always learning new stuff about trauma, but what was interesting for me is I recently started reading Bessel van der Kolk's The Body Keeps the Score again. And I read it early on, right after school. And so having that big of a gap, the things, Susie, that you were sharing was like, oh, this is right where I'm at in the book. And it's like, even though I read it before, I'm getting so much more out of it now. You know, it's like connecting dots instead of learning something new. And also just, my brain is of an age that I need to hear it more than once or twice before it gets back to where I actually remember it and know it. So that's been really helpful, just to hear it again. And yeah. But I did like Anchor. I haven't actually heard anchoring that's a visual one for me. It went right to a picture of an anchor and it made a lot of sense. And I took some notes about it. I really felt like that was really helpful.
Another place that gets at anchors really nicely is in Deb Dana's book on polyvagal theory. She talks about different brain states that really are the untriggered brain when we're in this state. So she calls it the safe and engaged state. And it's the ventral polyvagal state. And then there's the fight flight, which is more the sympathetic nervous system. And then there's like a collapse state, which is dorsal ventral. Anyway, she does this thing of mapping people's nervous systems with them and helping them notice where are they and when are in those places. And then she helps them develop an anchor for a safe and engaged state. So when do I feel safe and engaged? Is it when I'm taking care of my baby or playing basketball or walking in the woods? Whatever that is, then I can develop that and really get the image and the story and write it all out so that I can and give it a name like river time. And then I can access river time as my anchor when I need to. And I've been working on doing anchors with therapists because we sometimes need to anchor ourselves when we're in a session that's causing us to get dysregulated. And so I can say, I can say Arlo time and it brings me into joy and connection, or I can say wise mama and I can think of my being a mom and feeling like I know everything and I can help anybody, whatever kind of can give you the state that helps you get through the moment. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
I also heard of anchors for the first time with Babette Rothschild's work.
Oh yeah, Babette Rothschild, who's The Body Remembers, is an amazing book where it just really articulates the levels and kind of we should do no harm, like never jump to a level that the client's not ready for. That a lot of harm has been done in therapy by people doing that.
Yeah.
How much the body matters though, and I think we can get more and more comfortable talking about where do you feel that in your body and can you put your hand there, and just helping people be bodied creatures, that we're animals and we kind of try to ignore that in Western civilization and white supremacy culture a bit, and that really can be such a route to groundedness, is just letting yourself be in your body and recognizing you can tolerate what you're experiencing and you can meet it with soothing and presence.
It's a perfect thing to put on a website. Let yourself be in your body. Such a beautiful, beautiful concept for most of us.
I really appreciated the idea of having people explore ways and times that they feel really competent, like you mentioned, playing the piano as an example, that I feel like that just kind of is a little different from a lot of what I've heard of. Yeah, just be on the beach, be on the sand, but like when they can really get a sense of themselves for.
Yeah.
So I like that.
I wonder if that might be a good tool for combating the imposter syndrome too. Not that I know anybody that has that.
No,
but-
no, I'm sure nobody here does. Yeah.
Nobody.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great point, Tony, is that would be a really good anchor, that it's not that you need to know you're unconditionally loved or that you need to know that you're safe. You just need to know that you have competency and that you have skill and that you have agent, you have the ability to make things happen. And so thinking of that, even if it was the time you built a shed in your backyard by yourself and it has nothing to do with therapy, it still can kind of bring that energy online.
Oh, great. Thanks for the resources in the chat box, Grace and Rebecca. I was going to say briefly that, Susie, when you were sharing about the conveyor belt and giving examples that are personal examples, it just reminded me how much it matters when we're working with people that knowing that that person on the other side is so incredibly human, like how much that soothes our own nervous systems. And we may not even realize that there's a gap until the person like reaches across and is like, yeah, I deal with these things too, and this is what I do with that. And I think that goes a huge way with trauma. Yeah.
Yeah, huge. Helps combat shame so much and just normalize and it helps them feel like you're available to them in a way that feels very different than if you're a detached professional who has no issues and no soul.
Right. Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's it, unless there's any last questions. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. We'll send out the recording and some of the resources, and feel free to follow up if any other questions arise.
Take care.
Thank you so much, both of
Be
you.
safe, everybody.
Yeah.
Wow.
Thanks, everyone.
So good to see you, Susie, and everybody, just everybody.
It's good to see all these dearly beloved souls from my past and present and ones from my present.
Night.
Good night.
Bye, everyone.
Who's going to be the last to go?
There's Celine and her baby.
Aw. And no more. All right. Bye, you guys.
Bye.
Thanks, Tony.
Oh, look at sit there with these amazing people. And okay, I'm gonna go.
Bye, Tony. Good to see you.
Good
Bye.
to see you too. Good to see you both. Bye.
I'm going to turn
Bye.
off the recording, Ariana.
Okay.